to start looking at the IDU unit final design, which is the trench design for myself. Here we have the British trench. This trench out of sandbags and wood. This was not a very stable trench, but it was enough to keep the soldiers safe. We are going to go down and we will see these boards. These are called duck boards. They were used so that the British soldiers wouldn't get their feet all nastied up in the water or mud. They were mostly there just to, as I said, keep their feet from getting nasty, which also is called trench foot. These trench foot is sort of a flesh-eating type of decay of the foot if it never gets dry. We are then going to look here at the parapet, which was also known as a shooting position. It has a clear line of the German trenches. This is a very good sign, but one of the bad signs was that it was mostly just wood and sandbags, whereas the Germans, which we will talk about in a little bit, had all concrete and wood. Here we are going to look at a front lines communication dugout. This was made so that they could send requests from the front line to the reserve line for supplies or any number of things. It was small, but it was dug in deeper into the rock and soil so that it could withstand artillery barrages. Now, sadly, some of these would get filled in because it was so close to the wood and mud. So if an artillery shell would hit this side, sometimes the dirt and mud and wood would block out the frontline communications dugout and they would die, sadly. Here we have a dugout, which was where soldiers would sleep, eat, and do most of their stuff when not fighting. It's not very luxurious. It's just mud and dirt. But it was enough to keep them out of the rain and away from bullet fire. Here we are in the frontline trench. But here we can see another parapet, which is very good. We are moving back to a connecting trench. These trenches were much more zigzaggy because if an artillery barrage would hit one of the sides, the blast wave would get cut off by the next little wall curve. We're going to walk through here. Look at the little chicken. As we walk more and more through here, we get to the support trench. Support trench was in the second line of defense against the Germans on the Western Front. It was a trench that could support the frontline trench, but it was not as fully stocked as the reserve trench. Here we have Central Command, which was much larger and usually better reinforced against the Frontline's command's dugout. This is where some officers would sleep, and plans and attacks would be formulated here. If we keep moving down the support trench, we reach Rear Command, which was much larger and where most of the officers would sleep. It also would even sometimes have glass windows, which was a very large commodity. As we keep moving down here, we see more and more flooding. This was very common in a British trench because when in the British trench, they were not very well reinforced and they would flood easily, such as in here. This was a partially destroyed trench that I designed. As we go through here, we reach a British machine gun dugout. These were little posts completely made out of sandbags and wood. These were very useful because they could use the machine guns to cut down the German lines. Now, the Germans also had machine guns, but with this, it was a nice, fast, easy to set up machine dugout. We're going to keep moving now. We're here in the reserve trench. These were much more fully stocked. They were not usually as flooded, and as can be seen here, they had much better flooring. Usually all wood instead of just little duck boards like I talked earlier. As we come into here, we reach the field hospital, which sadly they didn't have a tent to set up, but I had to use the rock. As we come in here, this is where the sick and wounded soldiers would have to sleep before being able to go to the actual hospital. It was very useful. And then we go back here, we reach the artillery position. Now, the British didn't have as many guns as the Germans, but these guns could really shoot far, and that's why they were placed all the way behind the field hospital. If we go all the way to the front lines, you can see how far away that artillery position is. Well, that is the British trench, so I'm going to be now going over to the German side. We have a trench. As can be seen, it's used. If we go into here, we have the machine dugout. Now, these were much better machine dugouts than the British ones because they were fully reinforced with just shred apart the first lines. It could even have possibly a good shot at the field hospital. Here, we'll reach a parapet, a German parapet, which was sandbags, wood, but it also had concrete, unlike the British ones. They were much more reinforced, but they were also not as well positioned as the British ones. As you can see, there's almost no flooding here in the German trench. This was because they would build their trenches up on hills so that they wouldn't have water run onto them. Here is a German dugout for the troops. As can be seen, it's fully concrete reinforced. It's also deeper and makes a much better shelter. Here we're going to go into German frontline command. This was also reinforced with concrete, but it was not dug as deep as the British ones. And this meant that they were also semi-prone to artillery fire. We're going to just keep moving. They did have duck boards, but they weren't really used for the water. They were used for the mud, which would sometimes accumulate. And this is a barracks in the support trench. This is a very large room where soldiers could sleep but not be scared that they would be hit by artillery fire. This was much more luxurious living than the British had. We're going to keep moving now. As we keep going through here, we can see that the walls keep getting smaller and smaller. This is because we're going into the reserve trench. As we go into here, we're going to have two ways. I will first show you this way. And this is the artillery connection trench, which was very zigzaggy, but very, very thin and cramped, because it would lead to the artillery position. Now, they had more guns, but they were also much more well protected. Sorry. There you go. And they're much more well protected. Now, if we go down through here, we have German Rear Command, and this was fully made with concrete and a little bit of wood and dirt, but it was mostly concrete. This is where officers would sleep, where the commands would go through. by runners, which were people that would run through the trenches to connect messages from rear command to frontline command. Cool fact, Adolf Hitler was actually a runner from a rear command to a frontline command. They were also very well protected, so they would have little trap doors. I didn't put in the trap door, but they would have little trap doors that would be covered so that they could get in and out in secret. That is it for my IDU design. I hope you like it and enjoy the rest of our website. Thank you. Bye.